we're going to spend the next little bit leading up to our break just to do some dialogue and share some stuff. So if you guys have questions or you want to think of questions, please do. What? Oh, yeah. If you have questions, you can come up to this mic and share. But we want to just be able to talk further and unpack some of the things that these ladies shared. So, yes. Oh. Okay. So, do you want to ask the first question?
So while we're going to ask one question up here, so if any of y'all have questions, just be thinking of what they talked about, and then feel free to ask a question. First question, what's the inner conversation you struggle with the most? So kind of going off of Jennifer's.
Oh, that's good. The inner conversation I struggle with the most is probably if I step out, will I be supported? Because it's been such a lonely road. And so the risk of being alone in stepping out is scary, really scary. I don't know if that really answers the question, but.
I just wanted to add into that, Jennifer. I got a text while you were speaking from a very sweet friend from another country that was watching you. She says, I love her. I've never heard another woman talk about not loving her gender before, something I've struggled with since I was small. Then talking about how God can restore that. I still struggle with it sometimes, but this is so good.
That touches me.
Yeah, me too. So I think what you're touching on is so key. Maybe even sharing a little bit more of what were some of the steps that you did to come out of that?
I cried a lot. I mean, honestly. And I mean, it's I'm not super clear. I don't have a 1, 2, 3, this is how I did it. There was a lot of tears and grief. And even, because I just didn't feel like I fit so well. Especially the church voice was very narrow. And even like in Brazil, I did a lot of women's ministry, and I had a shirt made and it said, God takes women seriously. And people were offended by that. And then I had another shirt made that says, I was made to dream. And so, and it was because the narrow expression, and especially I think Brazil is maybe a little more conservative even than the United States, but that your life begins, like Deborah says, when you get married. So single women feel like they're in a holding pattern instead of, are you kidding? This is your time to run. This is your time to have experiences and all of that. So I think learning how to accept the fact that God made me a woman on purpose has been a lifelong journey, if I'm honest. But he says he created both men and women, and it was good.
I want to ask, just to kind of tack onto that, during your talk, you mentioned, despite whatever the world might tell you, you should be your expectations, you first go to the source and you need to get that from God. So I'm curious if in your journey with that, if you found that there were any anointed questions or what things are you dialoguing with and asking God specifically that you're allowing him to speak back to you that identity, if there are something like that.
Well, this is helpful for me because I'm not clear. I mean, it's still like an internal conversation.
You're still clarifying that.
But I think I would ask the wrong question. I would start off with the wrong question. Why am I the way that I am? And I felt confronted by God. And he wanted me to go, no. Why aren't you the way that you are? Like, this is a good thing instead of a bad thing. Like, strength is good, not bad. And drive is good, not bad. All of those things. So I think I went, okay, what if I just erased all the rules, those external pressures, the cultural pressures, the religious pressures? Women are this, they're meek and mild, they have a quiet and gentle spirit, all that stuff, where I think even the quiet and gentle spirit, it's peace within. That's what it is. It's not a personality type. And I just interpret it, and it was told to me that it was a personality type. Never from my husband. Like, Dwayne has definitely always been my biggest champion and has said to me, hey, this is a season. Like when I was raising babies and that whole bit, this is a season. Get gold in this moment, and I'm carrying your bags in the next season. Like, I'm ready. But finding that, just erasing the rules. Okay, womanhood is diverse, and that's a beautiful thing. It is not defined by having babies. It's not defined by being quiet. It's not defined by, just this supportive, precious wife. Although I also don't want to go to the other extreme, that the woman who homeschools her kids and she has 10 children and their names all start with B, you know what I mean? Like, she can be her. I want her to be her. But then I want this girl to be her too. So that the diversity of womanhood is seen, so we all go, oh, there's my point. And so I think for me, it was lamenting that I was a girl, lamenting that I was strong, and then being rebuked by the Lord and going, no, this is intentional that I made you this way.
I love that too. I love that God cares enough about us knowing that he will fight you on it.
Yeah.
For decades, if it takes that long to be like, no, this was on purpose.
For sure.
I have a question for Nicole. Oh, yeah, please.
Sorry, I didn't
Courtney,
know if
right?
I could. Yeah, I'm Courtney. I wanted to, while we were on that topic real quick, I just wanted to ask if that same thing that you're talking about, how it's translated to raising your children. I have 4 girls, so I don't know. I think you said you had 3 kids, but I'm not sure. They were all boys. I was just curious as a conversation with gender and the talks that we're all having today about that, how that's impacted the way that you parent. So.
Absolutely. My 2 oldest are girls, and then my youngest is a boy. And he loves to get a rise out of me. He talks about my feminist movement that I'm starting, all this stuff. I'm like, whatever, son, you keep ringing your bell, whatever. But it's not my intention to be offensive at all. But I didn't talk to my girls about marriage, until there was a relationship in front of them. It wasn't like, and then one day when you get married, and then it wasn't like I raised them to get married to have children. I raised them to ask God who they were and how they were to walk it out. So that was something I did that some people don't do that, and that's fine. But I love my girls. I love their strength. I love their personality. And my daughter, Chloe, I text her. She's at home. I'm like, you've got to come to this thing. Get dressed and get over here. It's worth it. But she had an encounter with the Lord when she was 8, where she had a dream, and a tunnel of light came down, beam me up, Scotty, in Star Trek. And she stepped into it, went up to heaven, came down, went up to heaven, came down 3 times. And the last time she's up in heaven, and an angel is showing her around, and there's all these doors, and one of the doors says Chloe's dreams. And the angel opened the door and said to her, don't forget about your dreams, especially to own hotels. Now, she knows she's called to business. I didn't. The way she played was different. We played boardroom at home. Literally. So Dwayne would sit at the table, and she would assign tasks. She's 7, 8 years old. And she would go, okay, Dad, you're in charge of security. Sydney, you're in charge of decorating. Mom, you're housekeeping. And it's that, train a child in the way that they should go, and they'll not turn from it. Find out who they are in God and feed that fire, feed that fire, feed that fire. So although I was raised in a home, we didn't get educated. We thought that was a waste of time. You need to go get your job at Walmart. Where Chloe dropped out of high school at 15 to start university. So finished getting her bachelor's at 20 because she's got things to do. And I'm kind of like, hey, slow down for a minute also. Let's just have some fun because you're just 22 now. And so she puts a lot of pressure on herself. But I think in the church world, a failure that we make is we just, and I'm a mom and a wife and I love it, but we breed girls to reproduce. And that's their value. And it is valuable. But and my thing was, what if I have desires outside the home? And God said, good, that's okay, and that's right. But yet I don't want to crush the woman who doesn't want to do that. That's great. You keep making your clothes by hand. I love that. I'm going to go to Nordstrom's Rack and find that on sale. You know what I mean? So yes, I raise my daughters differently in light of that. I want them to know who they are in God, and I want them to run with him in partnership and how he made them. And then we'll cross some of the injustice bridges as we need to.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really good. I think it's very interesting. A lot of my friends that have had kids lately, it's like 90% girls. And we just had a baby girl, and we're having another baby girl. Nice. I always thought I'd be a boy mom. Like, what is going on over here? But I think it's interesting. I think God's definitely stirring something in women. I think that was a great question. Thank you for asking that. Does anyone else have a question? Yes, please.
So when you were playing women's soccer, and there's this huge tension between men's soccer, they get more money. How was that? Did you guys have to overperform to feel like you were worth the dollars being assigned to you versus the men's division, which gets a lot of the attention? So I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. With the UC system, it was pretty allocated when it was protected pretty well. Title IX and all that stuff came in. So honestly, no, the culture of the men's team was pretty gnarly too, because there's the coaches, the leaders of the thing really allocate it differently. So the pressure for performance was really protected for us. I think that in terms of audience turnout, if we wanted more people attending, it was always men's soccer first. They were like always the go-to watch. So it was like, oh, cool, come check us out after the game. Stay longer if you wanted. So I felt more performance-based to not for the crowd, but just for the results, so that we could have a title, so that we could say, hey, guys, we made it to championships. Because a lot of times people just wouldn't say it wasn't as fast-paced or exciting, which I personally think watching guys sports is way, way, way more entertaining. It just is a different level of pace. But I think the men's culture was interesting about that team. They would bring in like way overstaffed, like 50 people, and then they would cut the freshman class every season. That was not the way we did it. We allocated 32 players. We only brought in 5 extras. Like that's just like more of a normal structure. So theirs was very cutthroat, and they actually felt more fear of getting scholarship. I had a lot of friends that got cut their freshman year, would just pack up their stuff, and they were like, oh, there's another one going out the door. So I think the men's team, and that's team to team. It's just the system that they're in, and those are good questions to know before you get into that system. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, my name's John. I actually ran into you and Dwayne at the U-Haul parking lot. So I have a question. I'm glad you're here. Honestly, I was super excited. I'm like, that's her. I'm pretty sure that's her. So my question is, if you had an opportunity to sit in front of new married couples who haven't had children, how would you counsel them to champion the image and a role of a woman? And that's probably pretty deep.
That's a huge question. When Dwayne and I first got married, I was so set on not being taken advantage of and being pigeonholed that I created a rotation of chores. And laundry this day and cooking this day, and we rotated all these things. In the home I was raised in, we didn't even have heat in the house. We only had a wood-burning stove. So I was on the rotation of chopping wood and stacking it also. So we just did that stuff. So when Dwayne and I are married, and he never didn't treat me like an equal, but I was going to make sure he didn't by creating these rules and boundaries and the rota. And I'm watching him one day. He's happy to comply, great. So he's cooking. He doesn't cook. And he takes an onion and the recipe says chop. Well, he doesn't even know what that is. So he cuts it in 4. An onion in 4. And I'm watching him, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I'm judging him on his performance in this area that he doesn't know. And the Lord says to me, why can't you guys just serve according to gift? And I went, oh. And so we've just decided we're just going to serve. And there was a season when I ran the finances for 15 years, and then a season when he runs the finances. And we just serve according to what we're good at, and not this is a man's role and this is a woman's role. Now, I do believe that he's the head of the home, and I don't care if you don't. I mean, it's not really I'm not going to debate about it. I don't really care that much. But my husband has never said to me, submit. Never. Not because I'd punch him in the face, just because he values me and respects me so much. And he was looking for a companion and a partner, not someone who he would view as inferior. That's not what he wanted. And so we work, our marriage works well. So if I were sitting in front of a young couple, I would say, serve one another. Like with the gifts that you have, the abilities you have, serve one another. And sometimes that act of service looks more male and female, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay. But I think the key is servanthood. I mean, Jesus in Philippians 2, he's God. and he didn't consider that something to be held onto or lorded over, or like, hey, human beings, submit to me, I'm God. He didn't do that. That's pretty powerful. Hey, woman, I'm the husband. Like, that's the opposite of the leadership of Jesus. So servanthood to me is the foundation of any marriage. And then it works itself out from there. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's really good. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I know, like, in our culture, there's a lot of people who are the male and the female in the house are both working, but then there's also, with the single women, I know that you guys have more opportunity to just go into business, do all these type of things. But I know once children are involved, like, what's your thought process on the level of going into your own businesses and things when you have children in your home versus the opposite? Because I think that that's something that brings a lot of internal with a lot of women that, I mean, when I'm hearing things and whatever, but I feel like when I'm hearing things, it makes it sound like there's a lot of like an internal struggle of like, I have to be a mom, but I want to do my business. And then it just turns into where it's like being torn and it's like 50-50 versus, does that make sense? So that's just kind of, I want to hear you guys' thought processes on that stuff.
I feel like a hog.
I don't have kids, so I wouldn't know. I ask that question to myself all the time, so I'm actually very curious to hear the answer.
Well, I don't think I have a great answer. You may have more to say about this.
Well, here, we can also.
Yeah, so go.
I do think, I can't remember who of you guys said this, or maybe it was even last night, or maybe it was Jennifer, about like kind of the start-stop thing that women, that you feel. I do think that for whatever reason is more of our journeys. Maybe that's not right. Maybe God's going to, make that different in the years ahead. But I do think no matter whether you're single, married, with kids, have your own business, there's seasons to life and there's rhythms to life, and you're not going to do everything in the same season. Yeah. And that's okay. The Lord's depositing things in this season that you're going to need in this season. And if you try to merge those seasons together, you're not going to get what you need in each season. Yeah. So I think it's easy to, we are dreamers and we are people that want to bring influence. And so we're always looking over that mountain like, well, let's go take that mountain. But is this the right season yet? Or do I have to do 2 other steps before I'm on the top of that mountain?
What she said.
I think also like every woman's journey is different. It's going to look different for everybody. I know my dreams have felt kind of dead the last 2 years, and I have an 8-month-old, and all of a sudden I have this fire in me to start a business, and I'm super motivated and encouraged to dream and build it and still be an intentional mom and be great at that, but for some reason I'm like, God, what are you doing? Why now? So I'm just writing things down and going for it and gonna take it at my own pace. But I think it's manageable. It's just gonna look different being a mom.
I just wanted to say something on that, like the stop and start. So that happened to me. Like every time I was about to like launch a ministry, I gave birth, and then I didn't because I thought, oh, I can do both at the same time, and no, I can't. I have another baby, and so. But I just want to share this with what you said because it is seasons, and thank God for those seasons where we can focus and invest in those specific areas, especially being a mom with littles. But the Lord also challenged me and said, Kim, you're a mom, but you're also a leader, and you're also an entrepreneur. You're also all these things at the same time. So your kids are meant to come with you. And so he really challenged me to, I didn't have to, as much as you invest more in one season than the other, to like bring my kids on a journey with me into who I already was. And so that's why I have an 8-year-old now who wants to own a cafe and is, making her own business. And so I just want to challenge all the young moms that whether it's ministry, whether it's interior design, like you're bringing your kids on a journey that's sowing in them pieces of who you are and then exposing them to different worldviews beyond what they would have if you weren't like bringing them on this journey. And so, yeah, just like to throw that into like, you never stop being a mom, but you never stop being the core of who you are and let them come on that fun journey too,
Thanks. I'm glad he brought up that question because kind of piggybacking off that question, I've had a lot of the same thoughts. I don't have any kids yet. We've been thinking about it for a while, but I have my own business, and I had a business coach, and I said it seems not fair. Like it seems hard to be a woman that has dreams and like all these dreams and wants to go big and do all this stuff, and then to like have babies. I think I told her like it doesn't seem fair or it seems like a setback, and she's like it is a setback, and she didn't have any kids, but like she just kept saying yeah, it's a setback, and I was kind of like this is hard and like discouraging, and I think I still am kind of there, but I appreciate like in the way of just I don't know how that's all gonna work, and I do want to be a mom, but how does it all play out? And when you are the business owner and you are growing a team, like there's a reality of that, the weight of, a lot of responsibility with having a business and then obviously a lot of responsibility with having children. So anyway, I appreciate that question, but. I think you guys have responses to that? Yeah. Come up. Christina, come up to the mic. And Courtney, so I'd love to hear what you're going to say too.
Yeah, this topic is so interesting, and I have so many thoughts racing through my head right now. But I just think that, going off of what I was talking about yesterday about systems and how we need to be reimagining systems and how we're living through a time of great cultural change and shifting right now, one of the things that is really changing is work, like the nature of work and how people think about it. I mean, there's so many people quitting their jobs after the pandemic because they've had time to think and realize they don't want to do this anymore. And there's also a lot of people realizing it's not worth it for me to work so hard to get so little in return. So there's like a big shift that's happening right now. And I think that it's time for us to reimagine what work looks like and to see our gender and our quote unquote limitations as actually an asset. Like actually limitations, I think in our Western tech-centric world, like we are so about getting rid of all limitations, even to the point of like getting rid of our bodies. Like we desire to have this world in which like nothing hinders us, not time, not our physicality, like we can travel anywhere super fast, or we can instantly have this and that. But like we as humans were not created to have no boundaries and no limitations. And that's actually very unhealthy for men and women to have this mindset of like, let me just get rid of all my human limitations and transcend humanity and become like into the, what do they call it? Anyway, like when we all like go up into the cloud. Like that's not what we were created for it all, and I think it's very destructive. And I think that's something that women have as an asset that we should start looking into more and appreciating more is like, because we have these bodies that like once a month, a lot of us get periods and we like are, tired, or, when we see that as something holding us back, or when we have kids, we're like, oh my gosh, like now I can't, do this, and it's slower. And instead of seeing that as just a setback, seeing like maybe the system is unhealthy in that it's always wanting to do more and faster and right now. Maybe that there's something that like, because we're women, we understand this inherently more, that like we do have bodies and we are limited by those bodies, and those limitations are really important because they teach us something about the essence of what it means to be human and to be a created being, and to not be God and have everything on our own time. And so I think that this is something that we can bring to culture right now when everybody is rethinking, what does it mean to work? What does it mean to be a human? That we can say, hey, actually, I've been told my whole life that it's too bad I'm a woman, because if not, I could have done so much more. And we can actually say, like, hey, actually, men and women, there's a lot to learn from our experience of being embodied and going slower, and that maybe everybody could benefit if we learn to lean into that more instead of seeing it as a hindrance.
I love that. I just went through that. So when I found out I was pregnant last year, I was crushed. Like I wanted a family, but I never thought of myself as a mom. And I was devastated that I was pregnant. 'Cause I'm like, I have all these dreams and ambitions and things I want to do. And in the system, I thought I have to put all that away. And maybe for seasons I do, and maybe for right now I do, and that's okay. But I had to repent when I had Shiloh, because it was such a joyful, amazing experience, because God has also created us to be moms and to be nurturing just as much as a entrepreneur and a visionary and whatever, things that you are. So it's all beautiful and it works out, and yeah, I'm on the journey, but I had to repent because I'm like, man, I love this mom thing, and she's so awesome. This is so joyful, but I also love being an entrepreneur and a visionary as well.
I think that's so perfectly said. I think it's very hard if you don't have kids to know how much you're going to fall in love and how much it really does change you. And those early years are tough. I mean, I'm looking at Christina, who, she's done all kinds of things. And she's got 2 little precious kiddos. And I think, days are long sometimes. But it's like, then they turn into this, Right. And it's like they're taking over the world. Yeah. And so it's very hard on the backside to look and think, how on earth would I have grace for that? Right. So can I change topics? We've got 3 minutes. But I wanted to talk about what you were saying as we're reflecting on our journeys. I feel like that's so key. Yeah. I mean, when you were talking, I'm like, oh crud. Yeah, I'm right here in this. Yeah, I can see this pattern over. So just talk us a tiny bit more on that.
Yeah, just on the repeating of it.
The repeating and stepping out, and
yeah.
Feeling having just done this.
Totally. It literally, so it.
She understands.
I think I got it. Yeah. Just like, I don't know if I can. Yeah, maybe. I think I'm concluding, and we're just talking through like what are the takeaways, like what am I kind of going through with that. So the biggest thing I feel for everyone, I don't know if that's really what you're saying, but we're going here. January's coming up, and I just thought if anyone can take anything away, instead of looking at goals, which we love, of moving forward, what's next, how do we do the next thing, taking a step, and I was like, how crazy has this been? 2 weeks of me sitting in my failures and reflecting on my life of like every day I was like, oh, we'll work on the PowerPoint a little more. Let's see what else I can think of. There was so much content. It was so hard to put that in 15 minutes. I have so many more failures to go through. And I was just like, I made a timeline, but I took it off because I was like, this is aggressive. And I didn't want it to be self-deprecating too much. I want to keep it decently light. But like, it's crazy, right? And when we think about scary failures and like, oh, paralyzed, like it's like a real thing. But then you look back and you're like, yo, I've failed so much. Like God is so good, right? Like there's so much joy in the trials, because it's like, what was I scared of? What I wanted to get this lesson down for me, because I hate repeating things twice and being like, shame on that saying, right? And I'm like, shame on me for living 18 years. I'm 27 and I'm still afraid of failure in aspects of life. I still feel unworthy. And I know that's not fully something, I'm gonna dance with this my whole life, but I wanna dance in the ring a little bit better, because I have an understanding of where it's taken me and how it's crippled me, right? And like, I wanna have fun with it. I wanna be able to punch at it. I wanna be able to navigate with God through it. And I couldn't do that if I don't like awarely know how much control it has, what portion of me is scared, why am I so afraid? I come back to that time and time again. And I think about how that hits each one of us if we can know the storms. Like, have you ever thought who we are in the Bible? This is not answering your question. I have 29 seconds. I have this vision when I'm really afraid and I sit in the boat with God and he's taking a nap and I've laid with him down there and he's like, get out of the boat, let's start walking. I'm like, you want me to navigate walking right now? That's how I feel when I try something new and he says, go fail more, go try something new, go be a fool for me, Nicole. And I'm like, cool, like, yeah, let's go. And every time I do it, I'm like so nervous. And then I walk a little bit out and I start to sink. I really start to sink and I raise my hand and I say, I'm sinking, God. But I'm so happy I walked out, because actionless failures, right? Those are the things that I think every story has. And I'm so curious to know if you can each reflect, what is your actionless failure? How long has it been actionless, right? How many years have you been waiting? And what happens if you start to sink and walk out of the boat tomorrow? Because I think that's what 2020, every year, every season, like I'm 27, if I make it to 100, I've lived a quarter of my life. I got 3 quarters left in this game. So like, how much more fun can you have in it walking out, you know? And I think that's the takeaway, that if we can really sit in it and think, we can unlock more than what we think is possible by just making some new to-do lists for 2022.
That's awesome. I really wanted to ask you a question, but we're out of time. Okay. I encourage everyone, just keep having deep conversations and dialogue. I mean, there's so much even brewing and processing inside of me. So we're going to on break here for 10, 15 minutes. David Lee's going to say something real quick. But yeah, I just encourage you to just go deep with one another.
We'll take a 15-minute break, but I did want to add something. I feel like we're starting a movement. Bob and Lauren, every time we've talked about influence, it's really about a movement. This is it's very personal, because I look at my daughter and my wife, and I see my daughter, and I realize, oh my goodness, wait, I am raising her, and she's super competitive. And Nicole knows, but I'm raising her as if it's me, a boy, and I'm like, holy, the insight here is it's really causing me to go to even Christina's point. I'm undoing some of these little things in the machinery of my head of what it was to be successful, and I'm just repeating it to her, forgetting that her as a young woman is different, and I'm like, this has got to shift from the men that are here. It's so important, because there's default understandings that I'm not even aware of, and this awareness has got to be in a movement. And where I'm taking this is, as the CEO of Influent, we are encouraging this conversation not just for today. We want this to brew into what you're doing tomorrow, which is, to me, the litmus test. If this doesn't affect you tomorrow, we've done a horrible job. We've not inspired you enough. And we want this to happen when you go and we're gonna have a 15-minute break. We come back and we have 3 more incredible speakers, and we have an amazing afternoon. But I do want to also help us, because we were gonna do this as a paid feed event, but coming here as an Influence, the Loft series was like, we're just gonna start the movement. And I want to invite you, help us, anything that you can do to help fund this, because we invited them over. We want to take care of our speakers. We didn't take any registration fees, and I know do we have a basket that will kind of move around during the day as you're taking your break. The way I want you to consider this is we're funding this movement, and I believe we're going to have more of these TNT series for her forward. I think this is so powerful. at such a deep intrinsic level. Okay, and there are different ways to partner with us. 100% will go towards the event and our speakers. And so there's a little can. So there's a little can going around. So if you're going to put quarters in there, we're all going to hear. So try to keep it with paper notes. We will take cryptocurrency at some point. But please, I want to just say we've you know, Bob and Laura have believed in this. We want to support this. So during the break, consider this as a fund the movement. And I am serious. I think this is going to be a series where we can take this outside. And I mean, this could go on for another hour, right? It's amazing.
Another
So we are going to
20 days.
Yeah, we're going to, yes, and we're going to come back and do this some more. So I just wanted to kind of input that.
Before this panel steps down too, I want to make sure that we've got the information to get Jennifer's class, because I think a lot of us are going to want to do this. So just give us 20 seconds on the class and how you find it.
How do you find it? My purse is below you. Can you just grab it? My phone's in there. I'm a mom. You get the gum while you're in there. Okay, so my course, the cart just closed yesterday, but we're making it special for you guys. So Chloe figured out how to open it back up just for you guys. Chloe manages my life, and I'm praise the Lord for my daughter. Okay, so so the course is called Womanhood, How to Thrive When Life Ain't Always Butterflies and Unicorns. And it's 16 9 to 16-minute sessions and 5 live trainings. And if you purchase the course, you have access to it for life. So it can be convenient, or you can go along with a group of people. So you go to DwayneandJennifer.com.
Spell that out. How do you spell Dwayne?
Oh yeah, this is a big deal. I'm sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint. It's okay. Because Chloe was asleep and couldn't do it for me. No.
Chloe.
Okay, so DwayneandJennifer.com. So DwayneandJennifer.com. And this is a new link. So if you just go there, click on Womanhood, and then you can purchase the course. It's $149, or you can make 2 payments. I can't remember what the 2 payment price is. So
Fabulous. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Thanks.
Go get some more snacks, and we'll circle back up in a minute.